There have been moralists throughout the ages who have argued that the poor are poor because of their moral turpitude. After all, we are often reminded, it's easy to find examples of people born poor who became wealthy owing to sheer grit, determination, and entrepreneurial spirit. Clearly then, the poor remain poor because they didn't make an effort they could have made. This sounds convincing if you look just at individuals, but it becomes much less so when one examines comparative statistics and realizes that rates of upward class mobility fluctuate dramatically over time. Did poor Americans just have less get up and go during the 1930s than during previous decades? Or might have it had something to do with the Great Depression? It becomes harder still to hold a purely moral approach when one also considers the fact that rates of mobility also vary sharply from country to country. A child born to parents of modest means in Sweden is much more likely to become wealthy than a similar child is in the United States. Must one conclude that Swedes overall have more grit and entrepreneurial spirit than Americans? If we're already talking about systemic things, we might as well take that further and talk about the work itself. The belief that what ultimately motivates human beings has always been, and must always be, the pursuit of wealth, power, comforts, and pleasure has always and must always be complemented by a doctrine of work as self-sacrifice, as valuable precisely because it is the place of misery, sadism, emptiness, and despair. First, we are talking about the system. Now, we're talking about our very assumptions. It seems you can work on the systemic issues as much as possible, but that's still going to gloss over the notion that work is considered valuable because of misery, sadism, emptiness, and despair. And I'm not about to just pass through life that way. Well, okay, cool. Let's work on changing that assumption. Let's, to put it succinctly, discourage the acquisitive pursuit of power and domination. Yet, we've run into a problem. This is not some feel-good agenda. It is far easier said than done. Why? Turns out, it's about more than just our assumptions toward work. Power and domination have already left their mark on us, both consciously and subconsciously. Much of our sense of being a self, a being discrete from its surrounding environment, comes from the joyful realization that we can have predictable effects on that environment. This is true for infants and remains true throughout life. To take that joy entirely is to squash a human like a bug. There's a reason why we've accepted and passed down that assumption, and that's because we're shut down when we try to do anything else. We're blocked to begin with, moralized, and told that our very questioning is a bad sign. To accept that that's just the way things are, and even more nefariously, that there's a reason for things being the way they are. At that point, we don't want to be more squashed. We want to survive and even thrive. We want to care for others with what we've got and know. We don't want the world to change, so even that may go away. Caring for others requires maintaining a world that's relatively predictable as the grounds on which caring can take place. And that's our real world, where anyone who thinks he or she can be the hero and fix all of society's problems is ignorant and idealistic. But even still, even if we do not deny this apparent conclusion, there is something to be said to this. We say so easily that we love our children, but is there love in our hearts when we accept the existing social conditions, when we do not want to bring about a fundamental transformation in this society? Now the author here, this love of which he speaks, yes, it is the same love as when you hold someone in your arms when dancing. The same love that brings you to tears and passion towards a newborn. The same love that the Bible describes as patient. Love that's kind, does not boast nor envy. Before we entertain any ideas about grit or systems or power and domination, we must raise our standards for love and forgiveness. The very reason why power and domination is bad is the very reason why what we call love and forgiveness today is not good enough. there is no common way to see the world. It seems clear that what we perceive is largely a function of our previous experiences, our assumptions, and our purposes. In other words, the perceiver decides what an object is, where it is, and why it is according to his purpose and the assumptions that he makes at any given time. You tend to perceive what you want and need to perceive, and what your past experience has led you to assume will work for you. It turns out that John Donne, who famously wrote that no man is an island, was wrong. Each man is an island entire of itself. The purposes and assumptions, and therefore the perceptions of each man, are uniquely his, and there is no one else in the vast sea of the universe who shares them in every detail. Among other things, this means that no man can be absolutely certain of anything. The best anyone can ever do is to say how something appears to him. The cosmos offers no absolute confirmations. Relativity and the uncertainty principle are more, much more, than technical terms in physics. Each one of us must live with them every second of our lives. It's been said this discovery has potential to be as big as the Copernican revolution. Yet this merely sheds more light on what we should already know. It cries out for respecting the basic dignity of people, because there truly is something special about each one of us. It cries out enabling lives of personal discovery, rather than fitting into any form of preconceived institution. We really, by nature, have no preordained duty towards them. It's truly beautiful, because it puts the onus on our means of communication with one another, stresses communication as partners rather than passive reception of the rules of someone else's game. It stresses the idea that no one has the right to force change upon our beliefs, whatever their intentions are. Let me repeat that. It is a human right of ours to be free from forced influence upon belief. Because we don't have the right to force belief upon others, we better look into ourselves to see what kinds of things we're actively reciprocating. We've literally got to be in touch with our own scariness. The reality that our most sacred beliefs and routine actions could very well be based on misconceptions, faulty assumptions, superstitions, and even outright lies. I mean, we're human beings. As put together and agreeable as we try to be, there's just time to be raw, uncensored, and vulnerable. Yes, it is uncomfortable to live with someone who is constantly questioning accepted values, but making our most hidden assumptions disposable is critical to love and forgiveness. We have the most burdensome, painstaking conversations, which lead to screaming and the whole community divided, and more than anything wanting both of you to shut up simply for the sake of preventing escalation. From our standpoint, we have truly instructive points, but we end up shoving them down his or her throat because they cannot see just how destructive they're being to others and tragically to themselves. And it hurts you. It hurts every minute of every hour that someone you so want to love is being so stubborn and not seeing that you're really there to help them. And you get to the point where inside you feel vulnerable, as if it shouldn't even matter whether you're right or wrong, no matter what you've done or what you've been accused of. You just want to be sure that someone can be your friend at the offset of all this commotion. It frightens us that we can be this complex person who's been creative, helped spark joy in others, found times of extreme fulfillment, experienced beautiful things, but it's one point that's going to make them lose all respect for you. To hate with an ugly disgust, sometimes wishing they could simply put a bullet through your head. Someone who knows what it's like to change a belief that previously had such a profound impact on them does not do that. They know where they've been and where anyone can be. The people we see who have done destructive things, such as kill, rape, torture, have to a vast extent been victimized by power and domination, and are therefore most in need not of our judgment and hate, but our love and forgiveness. For there's no reason why something conditioning us could not have the power to drive us to do something just as mad. The very second we think we're incapable of reaching a certain level of inhumanity, I truly believe we've already enabled it. When we judge and condemn, we're just reciprocating the power and domination that started the problem.